Can a size ox in the afternoon, sir?
It's not who.
It's Howe for Secretary of State. How's the campaign going, John?
Oh, I tell you, I felt like I've lost an arm with this the bankruptcy filing of Sears.
Well, okay, let's get into that then right away. You made a career working for Sears.
I did. I started right there at Crossroads Mall, 1985.
No kidding. And then you went on to, you managed stores, I think, didn't you?
Well, I was a district manager for 5 states, and then I ended up owning my own small set of 5 stores.
Around the Midwest here?
What's that?
Around the Midwest here, John?
Yeah, I opened my first one in Red Wing, Minnesota.
Okay.
And that turned out great. Actually, in 1998, 1999, it was rated the #1 Sears store in the nation, that little store.
Wow.
On a 5-star scale. So it did very, very well. And I ended up spending 30 years with Sears, 10 on the corporate side and 20 running my own small Sears stores.
Jeez. And now,
That's why, taking that private sector to a constitutional office is really a good thing. Too many of our constitutional offices have been weaponized and corrupted, and I think you need somebody who has that private sector experience to help.
Well, absolutely, and you certainly did that for 30 years. And then since then you're in real estate, I think, and owning real estate and other things. Yeah.
I've got a bunch of rental properties and commercial properties. I even have some in St. Cloud there. Mm-hmm. So it's been very, very good. I think that knowing how you have to file for your LLCs and your partnerships at the Secretary of State's office is a big thing. And everybody focuses on the election side of the Secretary of State's office, which is very important. Mm-hmm. And we need to restore the integrity and the honesty there. But also you serve on the investment board for the state, but more importantly, you issue all the licenses for the state of Minnesota.
I will say I'm intimately familiar with that aspect of the Secretary of State's office, and there is a very intricate, complex web of technical stuff that has to happen to control all of these, like you say, entities, the LLCs, all the registering of businesses, names, everything like that goes through the Secretary of State's office that I think a lot of folks have never even thought of or don't get.
Right. And the other, one of the things that we need to improve is every year you have to re-register your business, whether or not, and it isn't even a fee collection thing where you have to pay for it. It's just the fact that you have to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things that we can eliminate. And maybe if you don't have a filing with the Department of Revenue, then maybe in that case, they could send you a notice and say, do you still want to keep your business entity?
Well, I wondered about that. Yeah. Why the hassle? Why do you have to go re-up it every single year?
That's part of why we need to streamline our business practices, reduce our regulations, and drive business. I think we need a Secretary of State's office that communicates and drives us at the speed of commerce. And too many times our state departments lag behind, and they put in regulations that are placed that are just so outdated.
For sure. And unnecessary. I don't know why it has to be so complicated. Like I say, if you go in and do anything on the Secretary of State's website, I mean, it's there. You can navigate your way through it. But, man, it seems like it's too complicated.
Unfortunately, if you go there, it looks more like somebody's campaign website. But I've only made one campaign promise, and that's not to mention my opponent's name. I'll mention the office. I'll mention the Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. But I want to focus on what we want to do and how we want to improve the system. And certainly we need transparency in government. We need to have open and honest and fair elections. And I think we can do a lot to improve our integrity. And I encourage people to go to my website, which is soshow.com. And in your listening area, they get to vote for 2 Howes potentially there.
Absolutely. Yep. Jeff Howe for Senate to replace Michelle Fischbach, Representative Howe running for Senate, and your older brother, actually, and then you for Secretary of State.
You can call him either way. You can call him my little brother or my older brother. Either one works.
yes, they do.
No, he is such a great guy, and I'm so proud of him and his service, his military record, and everything he's done, his fire service record, and serving overseas. And that's one thing, in the Norm Coleman, Al Franken recount issue. Several thousands of military men and women's votes did not count because they came in too late. And when I'm the Secretary of State, we're going to ensure that our men and women that are serving, especially the ones that are serving in harm's way overseas, their votes are going to count. And that's another change I think we should do is right now it's whenever your absentee ballot has to be at the auditor's office before the election or on election day, where I think we should go by postmark because you can't rely on the Postal Service to get your letter there on time, and especially when you're coming from a theater of war.
Absolutely. And they need to be counted. You shouldn't, of all the people to not disenfranchise, nobody should be, but certainly not the military. My goodness. Be penalized.
Well, I think there's probably a certain reason why they chose not to. I think the current secretary at that time could have went to the Minnesota Supreme Court and got those votes counted, but it probably didn't help their cause when we were talking about Al Franken being awarded the election with 312 votes.
Yeah, didn't play into the grand scheme of things to have Mark Ritchie as the Secretary of State. That was a amazing George Soros project there that paid off in spades for those guys. Yeah. We got to get that back though, John. You got to get that seat back. Mary Kiffmeyer, was a phenomenal Secretary of State.
Mary Kiffmeyer's been very supportive and very helpful. Senator Kiffmeyer, she designed many of the systems that we've had at the Secretary of State's office. But it's been over a decade since a Republican has controlled that office. And when you look at the Attorney General's office, it's been 48 years it's been under Democratic control. And what happens when one party controls an office that long is there's a lot of corruption that happens. And there's a sense of entitlement. And so hopefully, the main thing is getting my name out there. I talk a lot about the yellow flashing arrow law. When I was state senator as the vice chair of the Senate Transportation, I carried the bill that allowed for left-hand turns with a yellow flashing arrow at stoplight intersections.
Well, I'd forgotten that. Wow.
So I tell everybody, when you're sitting at one of those yellow flashing arrows, you can say, now you know who passed that law. And when they say who, you say it's not who, it's how. And it has nothing to do with the Secretary of State's office. It has everything to do with name recognition. But it also shows common sense, and that's what we need. I grew up on a farm in western Minnesota, and we need common sense at our offices and at our state level.
Boy, the flashing yellow light is the epitome of common sense. I'm glad you reminded us of that. That's absolutely huge.
Saves you time, saves you fuel, and more important, it lets you make the decision when the best time to turn is.
And it's a simple thing, it took somebody to just do it. All right. Well, John Howe, candidate for Secretary of State. Certainly, we wish you well and hope for a clean sweep there on Election Day with all the constitutional
I tell you
offices.
what, everybody has to get out. The media is saying that people are down by double digits and this and that. There has been no polling on my race, but it was the closest race we had 4 years ago. But I just encourage people to talk to your neighbors, get people out to vote, and we can do this. We're in a winnable race. It's going to be a close race. We're out there spreading our message, and I think it's really resonating with a lot of people. But I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to visit with your listeners.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's the least we can do. It's an important office, very important office. And yeah, you ran last time, and it takes when you look at people who have run, for, who are in office now, you keep running until you get it. And that's
you have to. Persistence pays off.
Absolutely.
And I think if you've got the right message, it's all about name recognition. You've got to get out there and be heard. So again, thanks for the time, and I appreciate it. We're out down in southern Minnesota door knocking right now, and we're going to keep going until Election Day. We've got I think 21 days left. We got to keep moving.
Keep moving. All right, John. Thank you. Website again is SOS.
Howe.com, just SOSHOWE.com.
All right, John, thank you.
If somebody would like to contribute, you can do it right online.
Everything's there. All right, John, thanks.
Thank you.